Hi everybody, in this quick video we're going to talk about in-text and works cited citation of books in MLA 8th edition. Again, disclaimer, always check with your faculty member about their guidelines for in-text citation and works cited citation to make sure that they are using the 8th edition of MLA and that they are staying strictly to that. This is following the strict guidelines as set up on OWL at Purdue. So again, OWL at Purdue is our primary resource for this information. You can see that I have these pages already open in separate tabs on this browser, which is Google Chrome. And you can see that I have two things in particular that are already open: the MLA in-text citations, the basics, and the MLA works cited page books. Now this is great. These are great resources. On the left-hand side of the screen here, you can see the table of contents, and this is how you navigate between all these things to get this information. In this quick video, I'm going to try to keep it at about 12 minutes, maybe 15 max. I'm going to go over some key types of citation for books, specifically because in most of my classes I'm going to be asking students to cite from two types of books. So the first one is sort of what I have here, really three types of books if I'm being more specific here. The first one we already talked about in a previous video, and this is this creative work by William Blake, which has a poem here, and you see how it has the page number and that sort of thing. And this is a book by a specific author, but that book has been compiled and organized and has additional information written in it by editors. So you can see here how this is set up right here. This citation below it is for a web page, and we're not talking about that in this video. Now, most books have a standard sort of formatting that we can use, and it's very straightforward. In fact, here on the Purdue Online Writing Lab page, I could literally type in the book's title. And for this example, I'm going to use Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And I will get some information here. So once this pops up, I got to make sure that I've selected the correct formatting, like the correct edition, because there's a lot of different editions, as you can see. So you always have to look a bit and see what edition you're using. So the one I actually have on my desk right now is the William Morrow edition, the one published by William Morrow. So I don't see it there, so I'm going to go back in here and type in some more information and see if I get anything, and here it is. So I'm going to hit select, and it's going to give me all that information. I'm going to click final step, and then I'm going to get that information. They're going to have all of that, and I'm going to click create citation, and there's the citation. And this is for when I am citing from a whole book, and a book by a single author. So again, I put my works cited entry in alphabetical order, and I have to go in here and I have to nitpick, and make sure that all the fonts are the same, font sizes are the same. I have to remove the highlighting that's there, and I have to make sure that it's the same font color so that I don't cause any issues for my reader. So that's the works cited entry for a regular book, and that's how easy it is, and that's how you can use the citation manager on OWL at Purdue to develop it. The problem is with that, though, is you noticed I had to take some time to make sure I had entered the correct publisher in order to get the correct citation. I had to check and make sure all the information was there. So that can create some issues for people if they're not careful. Now, the other type of book for works cited entries and in-text citation that I will often have students use is a reference book or a book with articles on it, like an anthology or something. And those books are kind of weird. They can take different formats. So like if you look at the Blake book, for example, like I said, this is a book that can be attributed to a single author, William Blake, but William Blake never published a book in his lifetime called Blake's Poetry and Designs. His publication history was a lot different. So this is actually a critical edition which has multiple works by William Blake that are compiled by these editors. But since all the works in there are by Blake, he is the primary author and the editors get secondary status. However, you'll encounter something like a reader from time to time, and some of you are in a Comp 2 class that is using a different reader than others, and if you're doing that, you might be using a reader that is like by a publisher like Bedford. And that reader is a bunch of articles that they have compiled on a particular subject or topic, and these articles have been compiled by editors. And there's lots of different ways of citing those. So the first thing I want to do is just show you, I think that the way to make sure that you've done it correctly is to just scroll down all of this and use some of the patterns that we have here. And the first thing I'm going to look for is a book, see how this has an edition. This is one prepared by an editor, like I talked about with the William Blake. And you could argue that this book is basically an anthology or a collection, but really what it falls under is this category right here. And it's named different things in different handbooks, but I'll just tell you what it's named in OWL, a work in an anthology, reference, or collection. And the reason I say a work in an anthology, reference, or collection is when you cite from a reader that is a collection of multiple works by multiple authors, you're not going to cite the whole book usually. You're going to cite one of the articles. So like this Bedford Spotlight reader that I'm using, it's the second edition, and I'm about 158 pages into it. And I haven't read this article yet, but it looks interesting to me. It's called Very Happy People. So I'm looking at my model here, these examples, and I'm going to use this example to help me set this up. And notice it has an editor just like this book does. So what's weird here is they started using, in this version of MLA, they started using this PP. So that might throw some of you off because in 7th edition they don't use anything to signify page numbers, they just use pages. So I'm going to use this model here as my guide, and the first piece of information I have is the author's name. Now, this article that I'm looking at in the Bedford Reader has 2 authors, so now I got to go back up here and I got to see what the rule is for 2 authors. I'm just going to tell you what it is. Generally, if there's 2 authors, we include both authors' names, but the first author, we flip their name order. So this is first author's name in this article is Diener. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So remember, we keep everything in a works cited page alphabetical. And the second author is Martin Seligman. And so if there's 2 authors, that's how you set it up. And then because this is an article, a smaller source that's in a larger source, I put the smaller item's title in quotes. And then I put the larger item's title, as you can see here, in italics. So the larger item's title would be Pursuing Happiness. And then I have multiple editions here and an editor, so I need to look and see what comes first, edition or editor. So I'm going to go up here, work prepared, a subsequent edition. So this has that 3rd edition. It looks like editor would come first. So I'm going to put edited by, and it looks like I need to update this too. They changed it from ed to edited by. So I'm going to go ahead and correct my previous citation. Edited by, and then this one I'm going to put in edited by. And then I put in both these authors' names, and I just put first name first and all of that. Notice that it's preset to hanging indents. You may sometimes have to go in and correct that and to make sure it keeps a hanging indent. And then I know this is the second edition. And then it's published by Bedford. That's the publisher. And then the article title, well, first I'm going to put the date of this edition, which is 2020 for its copyright. And then the article for this, we have to put the page numbers. And in the citation, they require the PP. And you can see that I have this autocorrect thing going on. It's kind of frustrating. So sometimes you need to go back and double check that. And make sure you correct it. And the pages for this article are 159 through 168. So in MLA, there's this cool thing you can do when you have 3 digits, and the second time you write the number, you can just write the 2 digits. So that's how you would cite a work from a reference work or an anthology. So as you're doing research, if you have a reader that's set up like Pursuing Happiness, where it's multiple articles written by multiple people, you can cite that article specifically, and that's how you would do it. You would use that to develop your paper or research journal. If you're using a reader that's by a single author that's not made up of multiple authors, multiple articles, like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, you would cite it in the way I've cited Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And so if you can counter, let's say, another article from Pursuing Happiness, there's one called Illusion by Cicely Bach, for example. It's the same exact citation. You would just change the first part. And then the rest of this you could just copy through here. Bring it up here. And then you would include, darn autocorrect. Always make sure autocorrect hasn't screwed things up for you. It's a good habit to get into. 56 through 63. So you can sort of see here how that is done if you're dealing with an anthology like that. Now, in-text citation, we only have about a minute left in this video, so let me just talk about in-text citation really quickly for both of these. Since there's authors, and almost every book should have an author, you should know from my previous lecture on the relationship between in-text citation and works cited entries that in the introductory clause or signal phrase, you will always put the author's last name. You will never refer to the author or authors by just their first name or names. Now, it's tricky with something like this two-author article. So let's go to in-text citations at Purdue again, and you can just scroll down here. And if we have an in-text citation with an author, more than one author, let's see if we have anything like that with multiple authors. There we go. And so here it is. You would put the word "and" between both authors' last names. So that way it's easy to track as you are citing. Now, because these are books, even if the book pages don't appear in the works cited entry, and the reason they don't here is because we're actually citing from the whole book, you would still need to have page numbers and parentheticals no matter what you do. So if you did a citation, for example, where you didn't have the author's name in the parenthetical, you would still need to include the page number in the parenthetical, as I have done in this Blake citation here, because again, that comes from a book. So hopefully you found this information helpful. Please email me if you have any questions, or message me directly through the MLS if that is an option for you, LMS, I'm sorry. And I am happy to help and give advice. Again, use OWL at Purdue. It's a free resource. It's absolutely free to you. It's a great resource. I cannot overemphasize how helpful it is moving forward in your studies.